Happy New Year's Eve. By the time you guys are seeing this, this year has flown by. It really, I know they always say that's the old cliche that the older you get, the faster time goes, but I'm really feeling it. I'm continuing my ongoing game of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, because here I am in another spot. I feel like you guys never know what the setting's going to be. I don't have a consistent setting yet for these videos. Is it going to be night? Is it going to be daytime? The only consistent thing is that I'm in my truck and I'm using this tiny mic, so it is my break. I am hungry. I've not eaten lunch all day, so I'm going to motivate myself. I've got food sitting here waiting, but I'm not allowing myself to eat it until I get this out. So let's get to it. There is so much to talk about. There's a lot going on right now in the news. I hope you enjoyed my church video a little earlier this week, because I'm a little more fired up when it comes to these news videos where I give my thoughts. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot I could talk about. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. And today, that is fraud. If you have been sleeping under a rock, there has been quite possibly the largest fraud scheme in American history uncovered in Minnesota. It's still ongoing. The investigations have only begun. We're going raw on this one. I don't really have like specific news stories that I'm necessarily going to link down below. If I find a couple things I want to share with you guys, I'll put it down there. I'm just kind of giving you my like instant reaction to what I've been vaguely aware of over the last week or so. But Minnesota is just the tip of the iceberg. So we don't know who all this connects to, but there has been massive fraud being uncovered in the Somali community in Minnesota. And it includes empty daycares and NGOs and all kinds of front organizations where we have been, American taxpayers have been cheated out of their money, out of their hard-earned taxpayer dollars, to the tune of something like $8 or $9 billion so far. This was uncovered by a guy named Nick Shirley, who is a young man. I understand he is a completely independent dude on YouTube. Describes himself as an independent journalist. He just started looking this stuff up online and wanted to know where the tax dollars went. So he started showing up to these daycares in Minneapolis, and I don't know where all he's gone. Started knocking on the doors asking, hey, I see that you guys are running a daycare. You can't spell your sign right. And you guys supposedly have millions of dollars that you're making. I was just curious, why is it so quiet around here? Where's all the kids? Telling them, like, basically just doing a surprise visit to check it out and make sure everything is as it should be, and it is very much not so. And other people from both ends have been having very strong reactions to this. I saw there was some gal in, I believe it was Columbus, Ohio, that was making the complaint that there's a lot of the same going on where she's at by some of the same culprits. And she is catching hell, but she is complaining because she is in like some kind of basically homeless shelter, and she says Section 8 housing is filled with foreigners, with illegals and with foreigners. And meanwhile, she, an American citizen, is sitting in a homeless shelter, and she's catching all kinds of hell for that. And we're also starting to get reports from, I believe, Washington State, where there's a lot of this going on. And of course, the left is just absolutely beside themselves with the amount of just hatred and racism coming from the right. How dare they target these innocent Somalis that come to the United States and take advantage of our system and take advantage of our goodwill to steal billions of taxpayer dollars. And when you're talking about a budget of trillions every year, I know a few $1 billion may not sound like much, but I'm at the point, I'm like, cut every single dollar we can. I don't care how small. I'm convinced that we could cut 3/4 of our federal budget and the government would function about the same level it is right now. The waste and fraud is insane. We need to bring back Doge with a vengeance. All of these people, if they are not an American citizen, they need to go home. This is absurd. I guess there's been about 90 or so arrests, and almost all of those are Somalis. And I know I'm picking on these guys. They happen to be the ones in the crossfire right now. There's got to be a few good ones out there, right? It's not that I inherently hate this particular group of people, but I'm not really seeing any shining examples to the contrary of what we're seeing right now, which is just blatant theft and abuse. And every time I see them in the news, they're speaking their own language, talking about they love their mother country and they're here to support. You got freaking Ilhan Omar that does all the same things. Minneapolis narrowly had a Somali as their new mayor, which he narrowly lost due to tribal infighting. So great, they're bringing that over. And I've not really seen a lot of value that they're bringing to the United States. They are the, I believe, second largest source of SNAP benefits, like where SNAP benefits are going. As far as like foreign communities, I think it's the Afghans are the only ones that are higher than them. But they are, it's like some 44% or something like that, if I can remember off the top of my head. It's just insane. My mind, I can't even keep up. There's so many updates with this, so much going on. I can't keep up with what all has gone on. Is it just daycares? Is it their businesses? Are there just, fake? Basically what's going on with these things is they're putting these buildings up, 4 bare walls, calling it a daycare or whatever, and getting $1 million allocated to them from government programs, and they're just raking it in. And I'm sure if you go in here, you're going to find all kinds of other shenanigans if you really start digging deep. I forget who it was. There's some retired detective or something like that was talking about how reportedly Muslims in America will do this thing where they will have their wife that's on record. So they're one wife, but then they'll have, in accordance with Islam, they'll have 3 more that are not official, and they'll have kids with all 4. Of course, the one, they get whatever terms every other married couple gets, but the other 3 are collecting single parent benefits, welfare benefits. So the families are just raking in the welfare. How is this defensible? I'm mostly addressing Christians here because a lot of soft Christians love to try it, and a lot of people that like to try to manipulate Christians try to tell me how I should care about the immigrant and the stranger when I'm reading the same Bible that is saying that they need to abide by the same laws. And when I break the law, when I go a little too fast in traffic, I get pulled over. I get a fine, and if I do that too many times, I get my license taken away, or I might even go to jail. I don't get any slack. And my insurance goes up, and I'm paying my freaking taxes every year. I can't wait for the next couple months from now when I get to give 1/3 of my paycheck to the government while I'm up to my eyeballs in debt. Sorry, I'm getting so worked up here I can't freaking talk straight. Meanwhile, I should have just been opening my own daycare and claiming that I have 100 kids I take care of and just rake in the $500,000 or $1 million or whatever I get and just plop that right in my bank account. But, I might not get away with that because I'm an American citizen. But we can sure make excuses for these foreigners. So where are the church leaders calling this out? Thankfully, I've seen a couple of Lutheran pastors that are rightfully pissed about this. I've yet to see any footage of the Pope calling this kind of misbehavior out. I see footage of him telling us we need to treat them right, though, which I'm not saying I want these people like beaten in the streets. I'm not saying I want them, dead or anything. I want them to go home. I want them to stop abusing our system, taking advantage of us, and just go home, go back where they came from. Whereas it's all about loving these people and not at all about loving our American citizen neighbors who are already here. our fellow countrymen who are getting raked over the coals because they're doing the right thing, going to their 9 to 5, working overtime, paying their taxes, keeping their nose clean, and they're getting absolutely dragged through the mud because my tens of thousands of freaking taxpayer dollars are getting taken away and dropped in some freaking Somali's bank account. So I don't feel sorry for them when they get rounded up by ICE. That's enforcing the law. Anyways. And the only other thing I really want to talk about is our military adventures. So we have been, the Trump administration has been conducting a campaign to what appears to be pressure Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela out of his office. I guess there was recently an election that was, completely fair and free and open, and he won by a landslide, predictably. So, but he's certainly no friend of the United States. So more and more we're seeing our Department of War put the pressure on the Venezuelans. And there's obviously a lot more going on to this right now. There's been some 30 drug boats that have been destroyed so far, over 100 dead. I've seen we've seized a couple of oil tankers, and we have now, I guess, conducted an actual kinetic strike on, I believe, some docks or a shipyard or something like that, where I guess a lot of these boats are coming from. And you got all the human rights organizations freaking out. And, of course, the left is upset, calling it an illegal use of the president's powers, that he doesn't have the authority to do this. Meanwhile, okay, I get it. This is more targeting cocaine specifically. Because fentanyl is killing tens of thousands, if not 100,000 Americans or more every single year, which makes me feel that this is more than justified. They're trying to make it out like these are all unconfirmed, innocent fishermen that are just getting, the daylights, freaking shot out of them. Meanwhile, we've spent the last 20 years fighting the global war on terror with strict rules of engagement and with tracking systems where you'll track these people all day and have to go through all these checks before you get the authority to conduct a strike to kill somebody. And, okay, even that's not foolproof. But when you stick a fishing vessel right next to these speedboats, so if you haven't seen footage yet, it's a bunch of speedboats. They have these like blue plastic barrels on them and like 6 engines on the back of these things. And the left wants you to believe that these are just innocent farmers out there that the Trump administration are just using as political propaganda to show like, oh, look at us flexing our muscle and, conducting strikes on these drug dealers. When I can guarantee you they've been following these dudes for days. I guarantee you the military knows these guys' zip codes. Because what they are telling us is that these are actually members of Tren de Aragua and similar groups, which, if you haven't been following, are designated terrorist organizations. And why is that, might you ask? Why are we going after gangsters? We have gangs here in the United States. Why do we care about a few foreign gangsters? Well, because these guys started showing up in the United States not so long ago, and they were knocking down doors in Colorado and elsewhere and freaking tying American citizens to chairs, cutting their fingers off, ripping their fingernails off, doing all kinds of heinous shit, brutalizing American citizens to intimidate them. Meanwhile, the local mayors and the Colorado governor is trying to gaslight us and tell us that, oh, this isn't happening. This is just hysterics. Well, it's very real. These are brutal thugs, much like MS-13 out of El Salvador and 101 different freaking Mexican cartels. These are demonic people that are benefiting by peddling poison and pumping all kinds of horrible things into the United States. And I get it. If there wasn't a demand here, they wouldn't be coming here. And that needs to be addressed too. But I don't really care if we're destroying drug operations, if we're taking down, whether it's drug lords or just drug peddlers. Sorry if I don't care. I think that is a perfectly legitimate use of the United States military. I have no issue with lethal force in that regard. And if you have a freaking problem with it and you're not an American, do something about it. I dare you. Try us. I don't want us sleepwalking into the next war. And you know what? I used to be a bit of a panican. I used to be a bit of a guy that was getting all worked up and freaked out by things like this when it came to what was going on with Iran recently. But Trump has now gone with toe-to-toe with Iran twice now. And okay, I exchanged a little bit of fire, but there were no American lives lost. And we accomplished our immediate goal, and we got out of there. We didn't get into the new forever war. So after doing that twice, I'm starting to kind of give him a little room to work. I'm going to let this one play out. I don't want us jumping in and spending a whole bunch of American lives, but we have a huge technological advantage over this country. And there's a lot more going on. They have some ties to Iran. There's good evidence that there is Hezbollah and other Iranian personnel up to no good in Venezuela. They have ties with China, if I recall correctly. And it's really not necessarily there's usually something more going on with what the Trump administration is working towards here. And you know what? At the end of the day, at least it's in our own hemisphere. This is our own backyard. We're getting back to the Monroe Doctrine, where it's like, listen, y'all go fight your forever wars in the sand, kill each other over a few dunes until the second coming. I don't care. But this is our world over here. This is the Americas. So the U.S. should definitely be the dominant power in this hemisphere. And, yeah. And people are freaking out over these strikes in Nigeria, which, he's bombing Nigerians on Christmas. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you just conveniently forget that 100,000 Christians have been murdered over the last several years in Nigeria, while the Nigerian government has done almost nothing? Who is he bombing? The Islamic State, who has been making a comeback in recent times. And they also recently killed a few of our service members in Syria. So yeah, we're getting a little payback by dropping some warheads on some guys deep in I believe it was in the north, which is where all this has been going on. And you know what? If you really feel so strongly about it, how about you ask the Nigerians what they feel about these American strikes? I don't know if it was done with their knowing, if it was like a joint thing. It seems like it was a unilateral thing, but hey, maybe we gave them a courtesy, like, hey, we're coming. Maybe don't shoot at us if you even can. But I will never feel sorry for Islamic terrorists losing their lives. I will never feel sorry for narco-terrorists losing their lives. And if that makes me a bad person in your eyes, I don't care. So God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time.